Awesome. All right. I like the promo. We're getting it all figured out week by week. We're coming up with new stuff. Oh, Doug disappeared. All right, let's see what we got here. Make
Oh,
sure it's up and running. We got all right, we're gonna have Raul is again as always, we're flying and traveling and moving around. He should be jumping on here in a little bit. He's got off a plane earlier today, but wanted to get everything going. So we got Dougie Fresh on with us too, so that's good. So listen, I wanted to put something out because it's something that myself, and Doug, and Raul have kind of talked about when we were doing this workshop, and that is we're not political. I don't give a shit about politics. I don't give a shit about who you vote for, who you don't vote for, what you feel like, and all that good stuff. Um, we just don't. We don't care. I've befriended some of the shittiest people on this planet to work a case or just to kind of navigate through the system and work for horrible people and all that good stuff. Great people, good. I'm able to kind of navigate myself through it, and we didn't want this to be some sort of weird platform that apparently everybody seems to be jumping on the bandwagon wanting to promote stuff. But having said that, uh, for us and what we do here, I think it's important that we address not the politics of it, but what it's like working with that heaviness kind of around you, like working for like in divided times. And how do you cope with that? How do you maintain some resiliency? So I'll jump in real quick to kind of lay out what on my end what I've been seeing. And again, this has nothing to do with who I support, who I don't support, who other people support, who they don't support. Just working in that environment, it's kind of can be a little bit tricky, and it could definitely be taxing, right? So I was um, on the other day on the Book of Face and some other social media, and let me go over here, and I came across an old friend of mine that I used to work with that was posting some pretty like aggressively like if you're for this person or that person, then don't talk to me, don't follow me, I don't like you, and all that stuff. And I caught myself going, I'm like, hey, I've been friends with you for forever. And then I was like, what am I doing? Why am I even engaging? A good friend of mine years and years ago gave me some healthy advice uh, for certain things like that. He's like, do not engage. And so I was like, I'm not going to change anybody's mind, nor do I want to be changing anybody's mind. That's not my role. That's not what I'm here to do. I don't want to yuck anybody's yum if they're into whatever they're into, right? But I remember thinking, I'm seeing all this stuff on social media. I'm seeing this stuff all over TV, the internet, and in conversations around. And I'm fortunate in that I'm not having to work actively as a first responder or veteran in this environment or in this kind of setting. But I think I first started seeing it when COVID hit. And Doug, I'm not sure if people probably reached out to you as well. Um, Policing during COVID and during the whole vaccine, no vaccine, and you had to do that, you had to do that, was extremely stressful for a lot of the guys and girls that were working in the first responder community. Not even, and that's just, and I'm speaking from it from, let's say, a law enforcement side. I'm not even touching the surface of what it would be like to work as a medic or in the medical field or in the fire side of the house, where the interaction between individuals and then taking them to care and stuff like that with the conflicts that were going on with that. So what do you do? And I remember I got a couple phone calls uh, with some pretty tired first responders, and they're like, what am I going to do? You're like, I'm out here doing what I have to do. I'm working. I'm doing my job, whatever it is, and I'm getting shit from this side. I'm getting shit from this side. I'm getting all this stuff like that. It's and it has nothing to do with the job so much as it is they're working in that weird environment of half the community or half the people that you work with feel one way and half feel the other way. Now, having said that, um, there is a benefit to remaining somewhat neutral when you're in a professional setting. right? And again, we all know the folks that got jammed up from posting something again recently, posting stuff online that's gotten them either fired or canceled or whatever goofy shit is coming down the pipe, right? Um, but I've worked in environments where we've had some significant racial tensions, right? Significant racial. We're talking as far back as Rodney King and just kind of moving forward with who's the kid uh, that shot the guys over in Minneapolis. Forget the kid that was on trial. Anyway, it's dividing between cops and or first responders and the community. But then we started to see real divides among the community, like some first responders and guys and girls that I work with were on both sides of it as well. And I remember trying to navigate, and rather than address, this is how I feel, this is why I think it's, people are going to have their views. If you think you can change it, good for you. But that's not my purpose. That's not what I do. So I try to navigate and find a way to work amongst people with varying viewpoints, right? And then you get home, and that could be you collapse because it's super exhausting. I don't know, Doug. Were you getting any info like that, or people
Oh
during
yeah,
all the shit?
same thing, same thing. Friends, families. Um, I've always had this when I was working. So I would say an easy 20 years that I was a sniper. I didn't participate in any political stuff because I worked for both sides. So I worked on the left, I worked on the right, whatever you want to call it. And so I've never been like a real active person in that arena, but I've always had this idea. And because, if you're a cop, you're right away on one side of the fence. That's not true. Just for the viewers, it's not true. Not every cop is on that side of the fence or on the other side of the fence. But I've always had this philosophy because with my family, we've got multitude of directions coming in from friends and you know, I call them social media friends, people that are on your social media, same thing that you saw. And when people ask me crazy questions like that, hey, what do you think about this? Because they think we know everything that's going on in the world. I always tell everybody, listen, man, you like chocolate? I like vanilla. Does that mean we can't be friends?
Yeah.
It's really the same thing. And then there's a lot of hate and fueled up environments right now. And what I tell everybody is focus on what you're doing, not what other people are doing, because you can sit there for 7 days straight and monitor your phone, your social media, 7 days straight, 7 days, 24 hours a day. And you can comment and you can watch everything for all those 7 days. And at the end of those 7 days, guess what? You will not have changed crap in your life or in somebody else's life except aggravate yourself or be upset or you sit there and you get aggravated over something that you can't control, something that you're not part of, And the other thing too is that all you're doing is making your wellness ruin because all the people way out there amongst this, for lack of better terms, fuckery that's going on,
What it is.
they don't care about you. They're not signing your paycheck. They're not waking up next to you in the morning. Those are really the two things that you should be focused on. And so, yeah, I've seen it and I've just avoided it.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not going to spend 1 second of the little bit of life that I have left worrying about a bunch of people who are pissed off at each other. I
Yeah.
spent 20 some years as a cop dealing with people pissed off at each other. I just don't want to do that anymore. And so it all comes back to what are you doing for yourself and for the betterment of yourself and your mental being, besides sitting there and being a keyboard commando. You
I
know,
got so so I think of like a bunch of different things where I handled one case. There was um, we have a lot of illegal immigrants, and we had a lot of people that were taking advantage of the minority groups that were here illegally for manual labor, for all sorts of stuff. And uh, within that community, there was an individual that had sexually assaulted. I don't know if we can say that, but that's what they were doing. Uh, that were inappropriate with another one of the family members, and they were both. Everybody involved was Hispanic, and so the special victims unit investigator calls me up. They're like, "Hey, can you uh, act as an interpreter?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, no worries." And again, I'm not. That's not my field. I don't like it. Um, it. I want to jump across the table and like strangle somebody when I hear some of the stuff that's going on. Right. So I was sitting there and I was talking to this kid who uh, he had messed around with a girl that was probably 14 or 15 years old, but had the mental capacity of like a 7 year old. So I had to sit there and kind of engage with this individual. And he was like, well, she's a woman. And I was like, and again, I'm like, I want to strangle this guy. But I'm like, you know what? You're right. She is. I mean, she, for all intents and purposes, she's older. She, blah, blah, blah. Just to kind of lull him into explaining what he did and try to get a confession to that degree, or just some admission of guilt, or whatever it was, right? And I remember feeling gross leaving that. And I remember talking to a couple of detectives I was working with about that. I'm like, I did what I had to do. I don't agree with this kid. I wanted to strangle him. He deserves every bad thing that happens to him when he gets locked up or after he gets whatever, right? And I was like, that was some. It's like a modicum of relief that it was like a respite. Like talking to somebody about it, they're like, yeah, that good for you, but yeah, you did what you had to do. So I was thinking about like how we are now in the environment with it being like so polarized that sometimes you just got to do what you got to do and kind of get through it, and then maybe when you get home or talk to your trusted friends and stuff like that. What I started thinking about was after that, because I've had a couple of first responders that reached out to me, they go home, and I think you touched on it a little bit. Some family members have their point of view that it's maybe not aligned with yours or it's in conflict with what you're doing. Like I have folks within my family that don't like guns. And I'm like, if it weren't for guns, I wouldn't be here, right? Kind of situation. Like it's again, it's and again, not to politicize it, but it's not so much the gun as it is the individuals that are behind the gun and stuff like that. But again, not to get too far into it. But that was my position. And coming home or talking to somebody close to me that was like, yeah, I don't think there should be anything like that. Like, which is their position. And I kind of understand where they're coming from. But where do I go home and get rest from that? Like, because that's home, right? That's at home or family and stuff like that. And then I started breaking it down a little bit further, and I was thinking, um, years ago when I was working at ICP, there was a tattoo policy discussion, and they're like, "Is it professional? Is it unprofessional?" Blah blah blah. So I sat in this meeting, and I said, "All right, guys, picture this: you're at a 7-Eleven or a grocery store. Three people come in, masked, guns ablazing, and they start shooting it out. And then the cops show up. And while you're hiding down in the aisles, the cops coming in, engaging with these individuals, shooting it out, risking their lives, and trying to help you out, and blah blah blah, and going into the whole ordeal. I kind of stretched it out a little bit, and I said, "All right, pause. Do you give a rat's ass of what tattoo they have on their arms when they come to help you out? Do you care?" Now, let me take it a step further. Do you give a shit if they're pro guns, anti guns, pro Democrat, Republican, independent? Does that matter? And the answer is no. When it comes down to it, if I'm saving you, if I'm doing something medically to save you, I don't give a shit what you believe. I'm there to help you. I'm there to save you. I'm there to prevent you from being harmed or whatever. Or I'm there to protect you for your right to say what other goofy shit you want to say or like that's where we're at. And it's you get hit from it from all sides. Imagine, we had friends that worked over in Charlotte on the state PD side that had to go down when the car ran over the crowd and all that good stuff, and the alignment of one side to the other. It was taxing because they're there to protect both sides. They don't give, again, we don't have a stake in the game other than to make sure that the people that are protesting are protected and the people that are against the protesters are protected as well. So when I look at it that way, I'm thinking, all right, let me do my job to the best that I can. The big issue is when I come home or when I come off the job or whatever, what am I doing? It's really no different than kind of mitigating the stress that you have from day to day and just over time, whether it be chronic or cumulative or acute trauma, whatever it is. Talk to a clinician, talk to a friend, have some sort of support group or support team that you can reach out. And most of you guys know this, and good to see you, Raul, jumping off the flight. Most of you guys know this because we all have them. We have friends in different like silos. Like I got friend like, and I'm going to shamelessly promote it. I just did like a ghost investigation with some of the guys from on the fire side, the Beyond the Badge Paranormal folks. Phenomenal stuff. Support them if you can. Huge supporter of Survive First. Just phenomenal folks, right? Um, they're different because while we're first responders, they are on the fire side of the house and I'm PD side of the house, and we have a different relationship because we have this shared interest on like doing goofy shit and going to scary places, right? I have friends that aren't even on the job that I talk to differently. And then I got my friends that are in the military that it's a little bit similar to the cop talk, but it like they ratchet it up a notch when it comes to inappropriate shit and stuff like that, which I love. So I have that, but I'm not going to talk to my aunt the same way that I'm going to talk to these guys. Find whatever group it is that you can get some solace from all this bullshit that's kind of going on, but talk to somebody. Because if you keep it in, it's going to start bleeding over. You're going to start getting a little bit more aggressive when you don't need to. You're going to start isolating from your family or the friends and your loved ones, and it kind of eats you up. It rots you from the inside out. But like what Doug says, and I'm telling you, I am an advocate. And now, and I'm going to share this. I just subscribed or followed this new guy on Facebook. It's a cheetah that this guy asked for this little stuffed animal cheetah to help him cook different shit, and he raps about cooking and how to cook. It has nothing to do with anything. I watch cat videos that the cats slapping each other and shit like that because there's just too much fucking negativity on online right now. So if I could see some funny there's a whole side of the internet dedicated to people falling on their front porch on their Ring cameras. Fucking hilarious, right? I love that shit. But I need it because I need a break from all. And we all, myself, you, and Doug and Raul, we get the brunt of a lot of people in crisis. And if we don't have some sort of mechanism to kind of navigate it, we're going to end our lives a lot quicker, health wise, right? And just feed anxiety and depression, stuff like that.
Let me
That's
jump in here, man. First, I want to
Doug.
apologize for being late. I definitely just got off a plane and rushed home and jumped straight on here. And sorry for being late, but glad to be here. Uh, I know, and I guess you guys kind of got started here, and I won't disturb that train from rolling. We do have a question here. How you think first responders who feel as if they inflicted trauma onto others in the community can work through that. Um, and I'm trying to keep it in context of what we're talking about here in reference to no matter what your views may be, when you put the uniform on, you got to you have to be neutral, not kind of be. You got to be neutral and you're there to keep the peace. Every now and then, and I think this is more so for bigger cities. I don't know about smaller cities, but there may be times when you got to do something. You got to make an arrest, and you kind of like that. This just sucks. This sucks. This person does not deserve to maybe go to jail or get this ticket, but you have to do it uh, i.e., getting ordered to do it. They technically, have stepped over the line of the law, and those just suck. They do, and you do what you have to do. I mean, and you make sure you're clear on that this is a lawful order, nothing immoral about it, and they did do whatever you're having to write up, and it sucks, but you make peace with you did it the right way, and that's kind of how I made peace with it. Is that I did it the right way. I didn't. We used to call it stacking. I didn't stack any more crap on them, right? So, exactly what you did is exactly what I'm gonna, be writing down, and that was kind of my way of maybe minimizing it a little bit. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but making sure that I wasn't making it worse for that person. And then all that being said, making sure that the best I could to let them know I was just being neutral, I'm just doing the job. So uh, uh, it sucks. I'm not sure I lost a lot of sleep because I did make sure I did it the right way, and that always worked for me.
I think it's intent. I think what you're talking about is right on point. Um, I when you were talking about it, I'm immediately thinking of because it makes the rounds every Father's Day. There's a meme on the internet where the guy who's waiting by the fade phone because the guy that assaulted and like I think
Yeah.
killed their kid shoots and kills that guy. Or again, I don't know what you can or can't say.
It was like
Um,
the Dad of the Year
yeah,
video.
yeah. So you have to arrest him. There's I kind of understand where he's coming from.
Oh yeah, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, 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 yeah.
The other thing is, especially with how do I deal with other people's trauma? When we do what we have to do and we lock somebody up, or I remember our big thing. I remember always feeling really shitty about it, but when we do a drug investigation in the housing area, part of them staying at the housing area is that they obviously they can't run a dope house or anything like that. So the guys or the girls who out of their grandmother's house or their uncle's house, and because of that arrest, uncle's getting kicked out, grandma's getting kicked out.
Everybody, yeah, yeah.
It's I felt horrible, but I think I felt horrible for the situation. But I
Mm.
knew I kind of had to do what we got to do. What am I going to let them just sell dope and run guns and all that good stuff? Can't do that. And I kind of come to the understanding that the only real person that I can kind of um, mitigate that and I say it loosely because we can help other people by doing what you just said, Raul. Just again, not stacking it, not stacking charges, not just again. The intent is not to jam them up. The intent is you did something. Your action has a consequence legally that I have to kind of address. And again, it's it's one of those things that I know weighed heavy on me, especially with like little kids, or if you were young or elderly. To me, that it just broke my heart. But you have to do it. This police work or first responder or veteran work or military work is not pretty. It's very rarely like copacetic and like, oh, this is cool. We did that, but usually there's some violence involved, targeted violence, which we again, anybody that thinks we do this job and you don't have to be violent, you're in the wrong. You may I don't know put drywall up or something like that. Although those guys and girls can get pretty violent too. But I'm just saying it's
Right,
we're doing a job that is inherently ugly at times. However,
right,
we don't have to be ugly doing it.
right.
And it affects you going home and again talking to whoever it is you're gonna I think communication. We talked about this on a previous show. It's all about talking to somebody. Like I can go home and I can talk to my wife and be like, hey, I had a shitty day today because of this, and this. And I'm not looking for him or to fix it. I'm looking just to have someone listen and kind of hear me out, like, hey, this is what's bothering me. Um,
That
but
was a big thing for me. It's just sometimes saying the shit out loud. Just helps to get it out of your system a little bit. And I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but if I just keep replaying it in my head and never say it out loud, I just keep twisting it up. I'll make it worse and start what if, and there's a whole thing. But when I say it out loud, I can it's easier for me to deal with, easier for me to
Cathartic.
start kind of figuring things out. And I'm not sure where you guys covered, so I'm just going to kind of ask a couple questions and get into it. But I know I think about what it looks like for the police, and we're old dogs, right? So, but what it looks like for the police now, and even in the divided times that we're living in right now. And I go back to COVID. No matter what your
Yeah.
views were on COVID, I was always looking at, man, every man and woman in the police force is holding the line of whatever their agency is saying to do, no matter where you landed on that whole thing. And the same goes with politics. You know, is there more pressure on police now in that in that way, in that reference now than it was back in 20 years ago,
I don't
back
know.
when
I don't
you
know that there's more. I think it's different.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think, I think,
Also, too,
yeah, go
it
ahead.
also if they allow the pressure,
Hmm.
if you allow that pressure to affect you, if
Hmm.
you're allowing people's views and people's words, and you've heard me talk about it, Raul, kicking the cat.
Hmm.
You every day, if you go to work and you absorb that trauma and you listen to if what they say to you, obviously I worked in a community that was pretty radical. It was a big in the black community, a minority community, and so over the years, I went through the the George Zimmerman crap that we went through. Raul, the what was that kid's name that got killed by us? Trayvon Martin.
Ron Martin, yeah.
All these different things. When people would be running out the mouth, I just did not focus on that. Like you said, you go to work, you do your job 10 hours a day, 8 hours a day, the good, the bad, and the ugly. The most important thing is that you don't absorb all that community bullcrap. I say this to Karen all the time because Karen cares about everything. And she'll go on her phone. She'll be like, "Oh my God, babe, did you hear what happened to so and so? I feel bad for him. Don't you feel bad for him?" And I look at her and I go, "No." And she goes, "Why not?" I go, "Because when I had a stroke 2 years ago, he didn't fucking show up at my house and care about me." So, that's my philosophy. Keep yourself in your circle. I don't care about people that are doing something 20 states away, 20 light years away, all that kind of stuff. You can't let that come into your life. You can look at it, but and here's the other side of it. You guys know this better than anybody. Between the three of us, we have been to every national disaster in the United States in the past 10, 20 years, from the Trump assassination attempt, the insurrection, the riots in Seattle, Salt Lake City, Minneapolis, George Floyd trial, Uvalde. What have we missed? Have we missed anything? The
No, I think
fires in the fires in LA, fuck, Raul and I were stuck in them. We were with the fires in Maui. But I say all that to say this. One thing we've learned is that when we get there and we talk to the people that were involved, it is like almost 200% different than what we saw on social media and TV. And
Mhm.
so I tell everybody, you're letting this stuff fuel you and affect you. And 90% of it's not even true. It's just social media trying to sell likes and trying to sell views, and TV just trying to sell views. I mean, and so to put yourself in that arena, to let that just affect you in that way is really just not a good idea. I just, I've seen it a million times.
Think it's
And
twofold though, Doug. And let me back in our day, we had, you brought Trayvon Martin up and George Zimmerman, which was but that was a different show, and we can talk about what happened there. But I think today, and I could be way off, but the in the last 5, 7 years, I just think it's gotten really hot. It's gotten
yeah,
really volatile, more than what we really dealt with. And I like the way Chris said, I think it's different, right? So, because I always tell people, I tell first responders, you have the right to be human. It's not, you're not a robot. Uh, Nobody should expect you to be a robot 24/7. And while I think they're trying to go towards being robots on the job, you're not a robot. You do have feelings, you do have opinions on things. And you're right, there's so much out there now on social media. Um even if uh even if you get on social media and do your research, you're going to land someplace, right? And it's just so hot right now, on both sides of the aisle, whether you're talking about politics or health or just all of it is so volatile right now. And I do think it's different. I do think it's a challenge more than what we dealt with, um, just because it's different. It's a different thing, and you're having to, especially if you go out. And I'm just thinking an exaggeration here, but if you go out and something is going on, or you're having to take enforcement on something that you're just like, man, like I agree with what they're doing, or I don't agree with taking this action because X, Y, and Z, but you got to keep that in, and especially if you're talking something strong, and I remember, we can bring, I mean, there's so many things we can talk about. Abortion, it doesn't have to be, you know, Democrat, Republican. It can be any one of these. It can be the COVID thing. It could be abortion. It's so many things out there, and the temperature's been turned up so much that, how does it affect us? How does it affect the first responder out there, differently than it did 20 years ago when we first came on? That's what and for all those reasons you said, Doug, to include the social media, and I agree, you got to kind of, definitely shield yourself from some of that, but it's hotter than when we were on the street.
Yeah, so
yeah,
there's you mentioned a couple things. So um I worked undercover for a an extremist within an extremist pro-life group that was responsible for firebombing some Planned Parenthood places and stuff like that. And I remember I was going into it with my understanding of this is wrong. You shouldn't be intimidating people going in, and you shouldn't be firebombing. You shouldn't try to kill the doctor, which they I mean, they were out there. So I was kind of walking into an environment where, all right, let me get my shit together. Let me prepare myself to hear some stuff that I'm really gonna. Interestingly, I found myself not agreeing with what they were doing, but really kind of understanding where that anger was coming from. Again, I can understand where you're coming from without agreeing with how you're addressing it, right? And I was thinking to myself, I was like, the folks that I was dealing with were like, they are murdering people. I'm going to do everything I can, and part of me was like, I under I can appreciate why you're doing what you're doing, right, wrong, or indifferent, right? So I think about that where we're polarized and it's volatile, definitely, But I think, oddly enough, we tend to have more in common with folks than we don't. We're
Yeah.
we're we're we're, we're very strong with what we disagree with, and that kind of takes over a little bit. But a lot of times we have more in common. Another great example of that is I was working in a recovery atmosphere where an individual, and I'll just use his first name, Frank, had spent time in the joint. I'm a cop. He's a convicted felon. I mean, uh, we'd never get along. I was like, there's no way. I had more in common with him than I did some of the guys and girls I worked with. It was, but for a few decisions, I'd be where he was and he'd be where I was. And I wound up becoming really, really great friends with him. And he's a phenomenal human being. And again, we're all entitled to mistakes, and that's it is what it is, right? So I'm thinking about all these different things and how we're working in this environment. It's just different, and I think it's more visible. Um, I come from a time in policing where we had where dash cams were like brand new, right? And now there's body cams and there's all sorts of stuff. And I'm thinking we're everything's kind of in the public. Anything you do on the street is going to be out for public consumption. And so I think of it this way: that it's a more on center stage. It's being inundated, and just like you said, Raul, there people are capitalizing on I want more likes, or I'm just going to be a troll to be a troll, whatever, all that good stuff. But I'm also thinking at the same time, we have the regular bullshit that we're dealing with at work and at home. So, like I say all the time, very rarely do I come across somebody that has one issue. So you have all this stuff kind of going on, which I'm reminded of a quote that I use every time I speak, and it's either Rachel Remen that I quote or Brene Brown that I quote. But Rachel Remen has a really really good quote that's applicable right here, and her quote was, "The idea that we can be immersed in suffering and loss on a daily basis and not be touched by it is as unrealistic as being able to walk through water without getting wet." And we're living underwater with all the shit we're seeing and all this stuff. So to say, I like to say that I don't engage, or I put it aside. You can't be exposed to this much shit and not have it affect you. So it comes down to what do you do? And
Yeah.
again, it's surround yourself with core group of support, like whether, and again, different support for different things that are going on. If it's work related, there's guys and girls that I can talk to. If it's work related, I can talk to Doug and Raul all day long and be like, hey man, oh, because I don't have to spend half my time explaining why something's bothering me. You automatically understand, you've been there. But for some other issues that kind of come up, I talk to other folks that may be a little bit more familiar or just have a better understanding. So I for different things that kind of go on and what I'm exposed to, there's people I can kind of go to. That's only minimized by my decision to engage. So
Mhm.
if I don't reach out or I don't start a conversation with somebody of like, hey man, I'm struggling with this, or man, this touched me the wrong way, or this, I don't like this, or and I know who I can talk to and not worry about them going, well, and giving me their point of view. I don't want their point of view. I want to get it off my chest. I don't want to carry this by myself. So I think about that quote. I think about all the stuff we're going through, and really how we address all this stuff doesn't change. The healthy way the way to navigate this in a healthy manner is communicate and
Let
get
me
help.
throw another one at you, Chris, really quick. I actually thought about this as I was, flying home today. Uh, and Doug, listen to this. What about the division between the ranks? So uh and with all those subjects we just talked about, pick any one of them, all of them, but you got, because we're, again, we're a cross section of society, right? So you got every type and color and gender and on the police departments. We hopefully mirror society a little bit, so you're going to have some different views. What about the division within the ranks, within the agencies? You got certain officers that fall on this side of the line, some that fall on this side of the line of whatever topic we're talking about. You think that's affecting them a little bit? Think that's making it a little bit tougher?
Yeah,
Oh,
because
absolutely.
it violates that safe space.
Yeah,
Violates
exactly.
the place where we thought, hey, we're all alike. We all think alike. Truth is, we don't all think alike.
No.
Yeah. And now I'm seeing it, and somebody had mentioned something about back. It seems a little bit different, and let's see, feels a lot different than 20 years ago. Back then, focus was more on physical risks of the job, 100%. Now we're dealing with not just the danger, but also the constant public scrutiny. There was a video of an officer fighting with somebody for her life, and I mean, almost died as a result. When they talked to her afterwards, she had mentioned, "I didn't want." She was justified. She would have been justified in killing him. Didn't want to do it because didn't want to deal with the public scrutiny or what that would look like in the social realm. And I remember thinking, again, just like what this individual said, I all we had to really focus on was this job is dangerous. We're putting ourselves in harm's way. Get it. Now there's a different kind of attack. There's a different kind of danger of being, I guess, doxxed or just being outed or anytime there was involvement with an officer with a line of duty death or something like that, we'd assign some officers to monitor his or her home and traffic and social media traffic. Like, hey, are they getting threats? Because I handled it where we were doing an undercover buy and a couple of officers were shot and nobody died, thankfully. But family members and members of that gang element were targeting the officer's family. So now I got to worry not only about myself, which I'm okay with for the most part, but now I got to worry about what that looks like for me in social media, home, going to the grocery store and running into somebody that's like, oh, I saw you on TV, or it's 100% more under the magnifying glass. But then it comes to where do you find how do you navigate that? To me, it's how we deal with it is no different other than you have to find a place that you can talk through it cathartically or
Yeah,
just kind
we can't. We in this way we can't mirror. And Doug, jump in here, man. In this way, we cannot mirror the public. In this way, that we have to be able to vent that stuff, talk about that stuff in our agency around our people, and be able to agree to disagree, and then walk shoulder to shoulder out that building, knowing that I got your back and you got mine. And no matter what, when we're out here, we're going to keep the peace. We're going to enforce the law. So even though we didn't agree, when we're having our private discussion, we cannot uh, be like I'm going to the persons that are just taking it too far and breaking the law and getting into knockdown drag out fights and arguments over politics views, and that we can't get to that point. We have to be able to have those discussions, and even if we don't agree, we
Raul
just
and Doug.
yeah.
Let me
Mhm.
ask you guys this because this happened. I can't even count how many times I've gotten into knockdown, drag out fights with coworkers. I'm like, you're a piece of shit. You're a scumbag. Blah blah. I'm a piece of shit. And blah blah. And back and forth. A call goes out or an operation goes into play, and we go kinetic. That's gone. I don't give a shit how much I don't like you. I don't give a shit how much I think you're an idiot. When it comes to time, when we're doing work, when we're operational and we are going kinetic, that change there's a different mode. And I think we're better at it because I think we practiced it a lot more. What do you guys think? You guys experience that?
I came from a pretty diverse um, department and SWAT team. I say we had the United Nations of SWAT teams. We had like a dude from every country. But where I really learned it the most is when I played soccer. Because when I played soccer, I didn't play with guys from Florida. I played with a guy from Ireland, a guy from Manchester, England, a guy from Italy, a guy from Saudi Arabia. Like it was always this melting pot. And I would see the what you're talking about, the hate before the game, because of countries and political views, or not political views, religious views. And I would see that. And then the game would start, and we would understand that it was going to take 11 of us to unite in order to achieve a common goal. And that is the same thing that's got to take place in the police department or the fire department or whatever. You have to reach into yourself, pull your integrity out, pull your honor out, and go out and do the right thing, no matter what the opposing team is or what two teams are out there going at it. You have to go in there and you have to be the referee and you have to be right down the middle. And then we all know this. I mean, this is common knowledge of any kind of first responder, but you also have to know where to leave it. You have to know to leave it there and then to come back to yourself. Because one of the things that we're not talking a lot about is recovering from it and what to do when it's in your face every day, like it is. What are you doing for your mental health? I saw part of a question that Leo put out there. I'll let you guys read it. I couldn't read the whole thing,
I
but
got, I got with him. I got with him.
I know that he was asking about, who do you talk to? And, not everybody has a therapist handy. Not everybody has a therapist they want to talk to about everything. But, that's where you got to look into yourself and go, okay, well, what can I do? What tool can I pull out of my toolbox in order to deal with this stress and to recover from this stress and to move on? And what am I going to do to make myself feel better? I can't listen to music. You know this. I can't listen to music because what it does to me. I hear songs, it reminds me of things, it triggers. I'm not a big TV person and movie. I have a really hard time watching movies and TV shows because of the triggers that they give me. So I avoid those things and I focus myself into other things that help occupy my mind and to take that away. That's just an example of what I do. I don't really have the political burden on me because I don't accept the political burden. I don't let that into my life. I'm not going to let that take away from me. I'm not going to let other people's hate. If you want to hate somebody, that's on you. And in this world is absolutely insane. People are celebrating somebody's death. And so that's the hardest thing that I have with anything is lack of humanity. You heard me say that with when I was at Hurricane Katrina 20 years ago. I think it was 20 years ago, was the lack of humanity. That's what affected me as I was shocked that people weren't humane in a situation like that. And that's what we're dealing with today. So, find that thing that you can remove yourself to take yourself away from that so that you can have peace. You've heard me say this 100 times. If you don't have peace in your life, you're in trouble. Because one thing that the three of us have learned being in combat guys, that when countries don't have peace, they go to war. Simple fact. When there's no peace, people go to war. We don't have a lot of peace in this country, so we're going kind of in a little mini internal war. The thing I always warn people about is when you don't have peace in your mind, you're going to go to war with yourself. And that will be the one person you go to war with that you will never beat. You'll never beat yourself in that. So you really got to take the extra steps to bring peace into your life and understanding, however that looks like for you or wherever you're at or whatever climate you're in.
And what you're saying is important to just to kind of touch on it is finding peace or finding some sort of solace doesn't happen by default. You have to
Hmm.
work to
Yeah.
be healthy, right? So there was another uh, question or comment, and again, amongst us first responders and grown folk and stuff like that, it's one thing. How do we figure this out? How do we deal with the stress and all the drama and all this good stuff, right? But how do we deal with it with our families when our kids or young kids are kind of involved? And so I'm I I'll share this. There was an officer that was killed in the line of duty who had a very young child, uh, not really kind of understanding what was going on. And then several years later, they had a family member living with them that passed, and now the child's a little bit older, and it started bringing back memories, or situationally it was familiar because a lot of people started coming by the house because somebody had passed, and it kind of started bringing some stuff up. So when we're dealing with kids, or again, when I say kids, 18 and younger, right? Even 19, 20, because again, I'm a lot older now, but um, when we're dealing with our kids, it has to be, you have to engage them to the level that it's appropriate for them, right? And that's different for everybody. Some people, I grew up in a household where there was no filters. Some ugly shit was said. Some like this is what happened. But again, I also grew up around a lot of violence and drugs and stuff like that. So there's my my adolescence or my younger years look different than maybe somebody else's. Not good, bad, or worse or anything, but just different, right? So nobody knows their kids better than they do to a certain degree, right? What some Me and my sister, I'm very like my sister's younger than me, but I'm I'm very passive and I don't allow a lot of stuff to bother me. She's insane. She will murder somebody for I saw her charge the field when my nephew did was like playing like baseball or something like that, and somebody had a bad call. Like she's scary, but I love that about her. I mean, she's phenomenal in that regard.
She's a secret agent Colombian, is
Yeah,
what she
yeah,
is.
a Colombian
She's
woman.
an undercover Colombian agent because she don't.
She's and she's little, but
Yeah, she's
I'm telling you, that little, she's like a honey badger. But
right.
so we're different, right? So I process things a little bit differently. I'm a little bit more refined as far, and I don't want to say refined like good or bad, but she is more emotionally driven, and I'm more cognitively driven. In other words, I can get emotional about something, but I'll pause to think about, all right, what's the best way to get revenge? Like she's not thinking about what the best way. She's like, if you're in front of me, I'm gonna just punch you in the throat, punch you, right? Like there is no there's a like a quick synopsis of where she's on you like a spider monkey kind of stuff, right? But I'm a little bit different. You know your kids a little bit better. So one's more empathic. One like I joke because my niece is the younger of my niece and nephew. She's either going to be an FBI agent or I'm going to see her on an episode of 48 Hours. Like there's like that's just what's going to happen. The other one, that my nephew is very caring and very like him I worry about a lot, right? I don't worry so much about like that's like my sister and stuff like that. But it's know your kids and how old are they?
I'd say this though, Chris, and this is a big deal, is that the person that asked that question, uh, don't go around thinking that, and don't go down the path I did. I thought I was Denzel Washington, right? There's no way, 'cause I've done the undercover thing, and and just life, and you shield your kids from things, and I'm not saying not to. I'm just saying that don't think that your kids don't feel it.
Oh yeah,
Don't think that your kids don't have that spidey sense that says something's wrong with dad, something's wrong with mom. Don't go down the path of where you're not meeting them where you need to meet them at, a 5-year old, a 10-year old, a 15-year old, and where they are developmentally. You've got to go to where they're at and find a way to have some sort of communication with them to let
Raul,
them
let
know,
me ask you this:
yeah,
your kids, did you not give your kids the ben? How do I say this? Did you not appreciate that your kids probably understood or were picking up a lot more than you realized?
it was a shock to me, because I had gotten I remember going to my son and having a conversation with him. And I told him, Doug's heard me say this all the time, and you as well. Uh, you know, hey, this is what Dad was going through. This is what Dad was thinking. And he looked me in my eye and said, Dad, I knew something was wrong.
Hmm.
And I was just floored by that because I'm Denzel.
you were doing a great job keeping that shit away.
Man, I had it covered. I had it all
Yeah,
taken. But and what hit me like a ton of bricks is I was putting that stress on my boy.
yeah, that's heavy.
That's heavy. And so yes, um, everything you're feeling at work and the society and at home with mortgages and marital issues, your kids feel it, and you have to deal with that and help them to deal with some of that.
You think you think it was hurting them, but because you were trying to protect them from that?
Yes, yes, and so that's what I'm saying. So there's a
Nuance.
fine line. There's a nuance to it, and like you just said, you were saying you got to know your kids, right? So and you got to know the people that, that you're talking to there. When you know your kids, you got to give them enough to be able to deal and let them know that mom and dad are okay in reference to that, hey, mom and dad are going through something, but we're working through something. We're working through it. We're gonna, we're getting better. We're going toward the good side. Whatever. And again, I don't have the magic words here, but we got to make sure that we deal and help our kids to understand that there is stress in life and that we're working through it, and mom and dad are okay.
Yeah, no, 100%. And again, it's different.
I'm reading the comment.
Well, the person who sent that needs a therapist. So
Yeah. As it says, a nod. The person that just commented said that their daughter is a therapist now, and she totally analyzes her behavior when she was working, and now she's a project for the daughter. So, but the person that commented there, that person needs a therapist. We know who she is. We know you. So,
She needs a
they
fucking
probably need a
team.
therapist because of dealing with us for
right.
She needs a whole team of therapists. Just
no,
like you
Yeah.
listen, it's a shitty situation. It's complex. It's multifaceted. It's got so many moving parts, and what makes it even more complex is that we all see things or get affected differently at different times, and we're not all at the same place at the same time. And sometimes we're really good at handling stuff. By the way, the three of us on here didn't get good at handling stress and diversity and stuff like that until much later on. We are the poster childs of we did not handle shit the right way initially.
Yeah, and Doug always says, we're the ones that tell you that don't do it like we did.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
don't do
Don't do
it.
it like we did. We let the wheels fall off before we got better, before we got another side of knowing how to get the skills to help ourselves. So don't. And that's why I say about dealing with my son. Don't do it like I did.
Yeah.
I should have had that conversation. I should, number one, it should be conversations, plural, but I should have started that
Mhm. Yeah.
years before when, just when the stress was, hey, money issues, and me and
Yeah.
mom are arguing a little bit, but we're going to be good, and I didn't do any of that. Didn't do any of that. Just,
And
she
I
just
think
walked.
there's a sense of inclusion, like, oh, hey, I'm part of this unit that's trying to figure it out. I'm just not letting shit happen to me.
That's
And so,
right.
but again, that's so I say yes, but also you know your own kids. Like we're not gonna have
Yeah.
that conversation with a 3 or 4 year old.
No,
Maybe in
no,
10
and
but
the conversations may be different. Different,
100%.
my kid may not be able to handle it at 10 years old. You may have to talk to him a little bit, like a 6 year old, and then you may have that 6 year old that's going on 26, and you can do so. At that, you got to know your kid and how much you can give and what's going to work. So, I would allow her to talk to y'all. She just can't.
That's funny.
The same person comments saying that she
Yeah.
would allow her daughter to talk to us, but she don't want to be associated with. Anyway, hey man, we're
So,
coming up on
so yeah,
time, I think, man. So go ahead.
here's the deal. I hope we were able, and I appreciate the the engagement. And like again, if you guys have questions or comments, we absolutely want to hear about them. And if you have suggestions and stuff like that. But again, these are conversations that we have that I think we would have benefited from having some sort of conversation like this back in the day. So,
Mhm.
do we have the answers for everything? No, no. But we can try to help navigate it with you. And again, if you or somebody you know that's struggling, just reach out. But let's go around the horn, and then we'll be wrapping it up. So, Raul, what do you got?
Hey, again, sorry for being late. I'm glad I was able to get on though. And this is just so important to me. We thought about this and just how just again how the temperature's been turned up so much out there in the world and in society, and officers got to make sure they stay neutral, but that doesn't mean that you can't be human. You got to find the outlets. You got to be able to know that it's going to be okay for you to talk within the confines and around your people. Remember that it's okay to agree to disagree. Uh, and remember your families are right there, and communicate. So you're not alone in this, and be safe. God bless.
All right, Dougie Fresh.
I would say prioritize. Now is a good time to prioritize. I've recently had to do it myself. Prioritize the things that are going to bring you joy and bring peace into your life. As the country and society turns up the heat,
Mhm.
you're going to have to do some things to turn down the heat in your own life. Don't get consumed in what everybody else is saying, what everybody else is doing, what you're not doing. Those are the type of things that social media and being a socialite can do to you. You're adding more pressure to yourself. So take the time to see what it is, those things that you need in your life to bring you some peace and happiness, and make sure that you prioritize that. And yeah, and if it's for me, it's in my family and it's within my circle. And I failed at that miserably over a lifetime. I just wasn't a good communicator, but I work on that now because I know that's the one thing that helps me. And so that's what I would encourage everybody to do. As the heat gets turned up, turn up what you need to do to bring that heat down in your life, if that's a term you want to use. That's all I have for you. Interesting conversation
Yeah,
because
good.
it's something that we don't talk about in this industry very often because you almost can't.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So
Well, very
No,
true.
I think we did an okay job in not being political. But again, like we said earlier in the beginning, we're not a politics show. We don't care what you believe in, what you don't believe in, who you like, who you don't like. We're here to help you and your families kind of get through whatever it is that you're going through because of the work that you do and just the environment that you're in. So thanks. Next week I'm hoping to be on, but I'll be in Alaska, working, teaching.
They
So
have they have internet in Alaska.
yeah, no, I don't have but the problem is it'd be at two, I
I'm
think
messing with you, man. I
2
know.
a.m. Or no, 2 p.m. to get on at 5 o'clock. I don't know. I'll figure out the time difference.
Yeah, it's
hey, listen, Raul, I've
they're
been to Alaska.
behind.
They don't have internet.
They
They
don't
don't have
have
internet. They,
shit, shit. Well, guys,
Oh
thanks so much for
man.
tuning in and send us your comments, suggestions on what you want to see. If you or somebody you know is struggling, you don't know what to do or who to call, just give us a shout. We're here to help you out. Thanks again, and Marky, we'll take it away.